which is old business on page 3. You go to page 3, and then where it says DV fiber representative, it's Donald. Back TV, you're on. It's background noise on back TV, sorry. Anyway, so that's, his name is Donald, not Daniel, so I made a typo on that. Stan?
Yes, I'd like to advise the group that there is supposed to be a letter delivered to the town office today. It has, okay, and I have not reviewed the executive committee guidelines and statutes, but it is of a sensitive nature, does not involve an employee of the town, but an issue that is occurring to a citizen in town, to an entity that the town pays a portion of its cost to operate. And I think the board should review it, and if it's appropriate, that it be done so in executive session this evening. The individuals, one of the individuals who wrote the letter may be here this evening. I'm not sure whether they will come or not. But if they do, we can fit that discussion with them personally into the larger picture of how we want to structure it here and advise them accordingly.
All right, so
So I
based
can make
upon
that
that,
motion.
yeah, based upon that motion to add to our executive committee an additional topic of sensitive nature with a minor. Let's see that, so that,
Well, in a way it is.
so that's why we need to do it in executive session. So,
Two minors, it's
with 2 minors, may I have a second for that motion?
You have some. Second.
Seconded by Bruce. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of adding a section of the executive session to discuss a non-agenda item, signify by saying yes.
That would be under 7.
Aye.
That makes comfortable too.
Okay.
Right.
The next
Thank
item,
you.
I'd like
That
to
one over there.
address
So I can maybe
before,
look at
as we are still modifying the agenda. I would like to note that I'm going to ask to move the executive session to after the pay orders at the end of the meeting, so as to get through the rest of the meeting with any guests that come sufficiently. Okay, other than that, any other changes to the agenda?
I don't know from a formality point, does anyone need to second that motion? If they do, I will, just to make it totally correct.
An agenda change.
It's not an agenda change, yeah. Is there any other,
Okay,
I'm just saying, oh, all right.
only
You're right, I have it as a motion on my agenda. Make a
Oh,
motion
okay.
to move the executive session
oh,
to
oh.
after the pay
That's
orders
good.
at the end of the meeting. May I have, and I will actually read the motion. A motion may be made at this time to enter into executive session to discuss amending the town's lease contract with Susie's Quartermarsh, PA, Susie's Little Peanuts, Brookline, under the provisions of Title I, Section 212A, 1A of the Vermont statutes. The executive session may be moved towards the end of the meeting as an agenda adjustment, which is what we're doing. So may I have a second?
second.
Seconded by Stan. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor of moving that executive session to that time and place, signify by aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right, I think we're good on that. Any other agenda item adjustments? Okay, hearing none right now, and review and approve minutes from the March 2nd regular meeting.
Did you want to comment that we have somebody else in the?
Oh, yeah, you should answer.
We will.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
Okay, taking a look at the draft minutes, does anybody have any changes for page 1?
Should be.
Bruce, go ahead.
That shouldn't be called informational meeting, it should be called organization.
All right, okay, I didn't even notice that. Peter, Town of Brookline Select Board or reorganization meeting, not informational meeting.
Oh, I see. Give me the date on this again. Is that the 23rd?
Wednesday, March 2nd. is
Second,
the-
oh, good.
Yes, it was a reorganization meeting. Okay, anything else on page 1? It's so big, I didn't even notice it. Anything on page 2?
No.
Bruce?
G, Wyndham, should be Wyndham, W-I-N-D-H-A-M, just a spelling error, Peter, on G, Wyndham County Humane Society.
All right, Wyndham County, okay, Wyndham is spelled wrong, okay, didn't catch that either. Anything else on page 2? Anything on page 3? Anything on page 4?
Is that where we go into, I don't know, questions, I don't have my page number right here. Wherever P and T are. P, is that 4?
AKLNNOP, appoint members of the Brookline Meeting House
Right.
Committee.
Leanne Parker, isn't that two words, Leanne? Or that's not one name, is it?
I don't know, all right,
No, her name is Lee space ANNE.
That's my point.
Okay.
I know
all
it's-
right, so Leanne for item P is LEE and then ANNE, Parker.
I had something on T.
Got it.
Okay.
I don't know.
Anything else on page 3?
I don't think so.
And page 4? Anything on page 5?
Yes, under A, town clerk report,
Yes, go ahead.
should be and reported an election coming up on March 23rd, not March 3.
Thank you, yes. So under summary update reports, section A, town clerk, it should say election coming up on March 23rd, not March 3rd.
Got it, thanks.
Okay, anything else on page 5? Any changes to page 6? Hearing none, all those in favor of approving the minutes from the reorganizational meeting on March 2nd as amended, signify by saying, oh. Am I doing it right? I'm just trying to,
Well,
Sounds like it's a fun.
signify by saying,
Aye.
aye. So, no. I have to make it a, I have to,
Correction.
I'd like to make a motion that we approve the minutes as amended. May I have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Bruce. Okay. All those in favor of accepting the minutes from March 2nd as amended, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none. Thank you very much. The minutes are accepted as amended. I have to remember my rules. Okay, members of the public, I'd like to add that Mr. Kerry Bourne has arrived this evening, and we are right at the point where we are, look at this, right time, everything.
And Dan Towers.
Right now you do.
Oh, and Dan Towers here, all right, very good. Present, Dan Tower is present on Zoom and Kerry Bourne is in person. All right, right now we're gonna do the final bid review for the Brookline Meeting House Carrie is here, we're going to review the documents, the two documents. One is called the bid acceptance cover letter, and the other is the project work change order form. So, everybody have a copy of it, what they, okay. All right, I'll start us off. I thank you, Stan, for putting together the form.
Have that copy, I have an extra.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah,
Hey, welcome.
the only thing I would change, possibly after looking at it, number 5, because we do have vendors that actually ask for 4 payments to a contract bid, for example, our snow and plowing payments. So I was gonna suggest that we edit number 5 to read something along the lines as, the payment schedule for the project is as follows: 1, X number of dollars by such and such a date. 2, X number of dollars by such and such a date. 3, X number of dollars by such and such a date. And 4, X number of dollars by such and such a date. And talking to the vendors with their suggested timeframes. but we just don't have, we're not like Archie Clark's. He gets paid 1/4, 4 times. So I didn't want to cut us off by saying, ooh, we pay half up front and
I see.
then half after. So that would be my
You're talking about the
recommendation.
plowing thing?
Any bids, this is a cover letter for bid acceptance. Stan?
I agree with the concept and think that should be the case. The form in general be modified as you've stated, and I'll be happy to work on that for the next meeting, so we have it available. I would just make the comment that in light of Carrie's requested payment schedule, I had that in mind only at the time I created it, so we didn't have to go back and redo something else. It's now a matter of simply recreating it after Carrie's is all set for someone next coming on.
Yeah, I think you're just looking at an editing thing, it's all for, but I
But
would
I'm
think
on
about the bids that come in that need more than payments.
That's a good suggestion.
Gwen, any comments?
No.
Okay, Bruce?
No.
Okay, so, all right, so the form will be helpful. As you noticed in your email, Judy sent us a request that, as she's working on the non-employee contractors, she has the list of information, and that's included in our cover letters that we're working on. All right, so we'll modify that first form, the bid acceptance cover letter. Okay, the second form is the project work change order. Everybody have a copy of that? No, okay. So if you looked over that, anybody have anything that you want to change on this? Okay, and I shared this with you, you saw it too. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. All right, so then we move to adopt this project work change order form as presented. You have a second?
Second?
Seconded by Stan, any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of accepting the project work change order as presented signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, so should I make a motion to, about the previous letter? No.
Yeah, except with the modifications.
Oh, yeah, okay, so
So
I,
Carrie reviewed the acceptance letter and is
Yes,
prepared
I
to.
sent
I'm in agreement with that.
Okay, good.
okay. So, we will leave the original format for this first contract, but modify it going forward and, the next meeting.
So when will we be delivering the acceptance letter to Carrie? We'll be executing it tonight and then.
Well, let's see tonight and maybe tomorrow I'll come in and tie up some loose strings if I have any questions.
I will
And then-
probably be here as well, I suspect, doing similar things with the grants and so forth. So
Okay,
I'll be around.
okay, so I'll come in and fill it out, fill it out, send it out, whatever. Yes,
Would you like me to deliver it to your house or mail it?
Email us, yeah.
Okay. Thank you for your patience.
I request, Carrie, if you get into some trouble up there, I don't know about Rod or whatever that you find, could you take some pictures so we can see it? Sure. I appreciate that. Yes. Nice close up, because
well, yeah,
we
because
don't
they
want,
become,
we don't want the same thing.
this becomes a historical history, we could put it, I'm sure Leanne, we can make a binder of the repairs for this as we go forward.
And I think you did that as well when, who's the roofer in town, Phoenix?
Yes.
Phoenix, just, there were changes there that all of a sudden happened and you took photos of that, documented pretty good if I remember.
I think Eli must have
Did he? Okay, somebody did, but, okay.
All right, next item on the agenda under new business, item C, final bid review for the Brookline Meeting House steeple repair submitted by Kerry Bourne for the estimate of $94.20, starting April 20th, weather permitting, ending May 30th. And I think I'll pass it around, this was the one, Kerry's insurances within those timeframes and any other vendor documents that I'll put together in the packet and mail out to you. If need be, and anything needs to be updated, that'd be great.
Thank you for taking on the job. Appreciate it.
Yes, thank you for allowing me. Is there, would there be a process if I wanted to start a little bit earlier than that?
Well, I guess you just need to put in a change order.
Yeah.
If you wanted to start earlier than that, weather permitting, we have a select board meeting on the 6th and the 20th, so if you think of something,
What did you have in mind? Now?
Soon.
Weather's good.
Yeah, the weather's good, you know.
Rain, it could rain all April.
Lifts are available now, so
May I make a
as soon as I can get paid, I'd like to get started, but.
all right, well,
Put it in
we're gonna
simple
put
as
the
that.
check request in, and the first time that you can be paid would come in front of us on April 6th. That's when we would be like tonight, signing off on it, and then it would be available for you on the 7th or 8th if you wanted us to mail it to you. So you could, if you decide to start it earlier, let me know and we'll work order thing.
Sure,
That's all it is, a change of time.
okay.
May I make a motion that we utilize the newly adopted acceptance form for this particular project to indicate a start date of 4/20/22 or earlier?
There you go.
Oh, all right, I'll second that. Any discussion? None, all those in favor of modifying that acceptance letter to say 4/20 or earlier, signify by saying aye.
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 Secondly, I mean, you wanted it as of the date of, you wanted to check as of the date we agreed to the process, right? And we were talking about doing it next pay order 4/6, is that okay with you?
4/6 is fine.
Okay.
Sure.
Okay, perfect. Any other questions other than asking that the photographic details would be great? And I would do it, but you know, I can't climb down a ladder after I get up it, so. It's stuck.
That's an issue.
Yes.
Oh, wait a minute, we're gonna have a lift, huh?
Oh, yeah,
Up and down, up and down.
All right, so is there any other questions that you wanted for Carrie to address?
Oh, I just got a concern, Karen, about the louvers. Shutters, sorry, wrong name, yeah, they're open now, or one of them's open now, do I have that correct? They're not sealed, I mean, they're not screened off from that shop, right? Good. Is that a part of this project, so we're gonna do separately? Because I'm concerned down the road, because we're hopefully gonna entertain the complete prevention and removal of the bats down the road.
I plan on tightening things up when I'm up there, because I don't see it to be a big
Okay,
amount of working time, so.
okay,
Yeah, we have a couple of alternative shutters that were purchases and they're online to be put in as well, so
okay, great,
part of the plan.
okay.
Yeah.
I'm thinking a screen might be too easy for them to break
Well-
through, but maybe a small wire mesh, then I don't know.
You'd have to get the rust proof of something galvanized probably.
Well, they make a screen that's fiberglass that is used for cats. And we had 2 cats at one time that were very aggressive. And we used that, we took out the screen that came with a slider to a deck and replaced it with that, and they didn't get through and they didn't destroy it, so. I don't know if bats are stronger than cats, but just a thought.
Wow. But it's fiberglass, so could break down in the summer, I would think, whereas like galvanized mesh wouldn't. As
Whatever,
I
just a
think,
thought if one.
just a moment here, for a second, let me get my brain together here. It was explained, yes, it was explained to me by the person that came, that did the mice in this building. When we were talking about the remediation of bats, that unlike mice, bats can get into a much slimmer area. So anything that is put up there has to be a pretty small mesh. Bats have a way of getting to very small places, unlike mice. Mice can have need a little bit more room than bats do, is what was explained to me. So the smaller the mesh, the better, is what I'm driving at.
All right, well, Perry, we're glad to have you working on that building and soon there, yes.
Also, I just wanna go back and bats, it was on the news a couple weeks ago about the The bats is
That's
carrying, the bats are now carrying a new kit.
Yes.
Just be aware that, I don't know if you'll witness any of them, but it's everything that,
Don't play with them.
they're a black.
Benny.
All right, black ticks, that's not good to hear, but.
No.
All right. Anything else before we move on to item D, open the bids received for painting the Brookline Meeting House steeple? Okay, we have 3 bids.
Relief.
So,
thank you.
Good night.
Good night.
Thanks for coming.
And Peter.
Take care.
This way, Peter.
Bye, Carrie.
All right, we have New Fame, O'Malley, and, Glenn Bostic. You know who Glenn's?
Okay.
That one? Oh, it was in, sorry, Glenn.
No, that's all right.
All
Can
right.
only read one at a time, so it don't matter.
Okay,
All right, you wanna start?
this is from Vermont Painting Companies, it's 1995. They're from St. John, Glenn Boston, owner, why is that name sound familiar? Doesn't it?
Name is
So it's a
in
bid from what company?
Vermont
Brattleboro,
Painting
so-
Company. Pardon?
that name is in Brattleboro.
Vermont Painting Company?
Yeah. Quote. This is where we're gonna be really careful here. Scrape loose and peeling paint using EPA lead safe practices. Cleanup of chips and debris using EPA lead safe disposal practices. Re-nail any pop nails, seal rusty nails and knots, repair and re-nail loose clappers, caulk open gaps and holes. Apply 1 coat of oil primer. Apply 2 coats over exterior surfaces of tower. 2-year warranty against peeling or failing paint. A 60-foot JLG, I don't know what that means, JLG straight boom lift will be used. Caution will be.
60-foot,
Yes.
60-foot man lift,
Am I
or,
going too quick?
no, 60-foot lift.
It says JLG straight boom lift, maybe marking, should
I
have.
think that's just the brand.
That's the brand, JLG.
Okay, will be used. Caution will be used to ensure no grass will be damaged by lift. $10,800 total labor and paint / materials. Paint, Sherwin-Williams duration latex. I don't know what SW means, exterior oil primer. SW, I don't know what that means. No down payment.
Sherwin-Williams, that's the.
Sure, oh,
Yeah.
okay. No down payment needed until satisfactory completion, 3-year warranty against peeling.
I thought you just said 2-year warranty against
Yeah,
peeling.
just a minute, you're absolutely correct. Where I said 2-year warranty against peeling or failing paint, number 6 on the quote. And then, then he says 6-year warranty against peeling.
6-year?
So like I said, it's been a long day. Couldn't even do that to you. 3-year warranty against peeling is what he says down at the bottom. Okay, now what he did here is his experience about the owner. I won't read all this, but if anybody's interested in looking at this, it's quite 35 years experience. His helper, 24 years and another 9 years. Really quite extensive explanation and federal references.
Federal?
Yeah. I don't have time to read it all through all of it, but we have references in the United States federal government. Painted the Andrew Ranger Station and Visitor Center in Gorham, New Hampshire, town of Danville, Lamoille, North Supervisory Union, Lady of the Meadows Community Care Home, wherever that is, and Francistown, New Hampshire Town Hall, painted historic town hall, Danville United Methodist Church. There's more specifics in here, but there's no really reason for me to really read all that, so we got to a bottom line, I think.
All right, so the bid was $10,800 for that bid.
Yes.
All right, so I have the new thing painters. Exterior painting of the Brookline Meeting House steeple at 632 Grassy Brook Road, scrape all loose and failing paint, seal all bleeding nail nail heads and knots, oil prime all new wood and bare wood surfaces, sand primed surface when cured, repair and re-nail any loose clapboards, all necessary caulking, 2 coats of premium quality acrylic finish on all surfaces, scrape, prime, and apply 2 finished coats of premium finish paint on all shutters, protect all areas not being painted, lift will be provided by the contractor. This bid is, and it did it come with a certificate of insurance?
No.
No certificate of insurance in that first one.
Wait a minute, like I said, we won't get references, federal references,
It would look like this.
about, I don't know.
All right, so the first bid does not have a letter of certificate of insurance. The second bid does have a letter of certificate of insurance, and the bid price is $14,200. And that is from the New Fame Painters.
Okay.
Okay, and you wanna read your?
Yes, this is from Harmony Painters, for the town of Brookline, dated February 27th, 2019.
2019, did you put that? He's dead.
Thank you for the opportunity to provide you with a quote for painting the Brookline steeple. But note the church steeple contains lead paint. Mahoney Painters is an EPA lead safe certified firm, and we follow EPA standards for lead paint projects. 6 mil plastic sheeting on the ground and HEPA vacuums will be used. The scope of work: scrape the entire steeple surface thoroughly to remove as much old paint as possible. We use 1.5-inch hand sharpened steel scrapers. This type of scraper removes old paint than traditional carbide scrapers due to their small width and sharpness. Once the steeple is scraped, we wash it with bleach solution to remove road dirt, pollen, mold, mildew, and any other surface contaminants. After the steeple is suitably dry, we will apply a complete coat of slow drying oil primer, thin to a consistency that will allow maximum absorption. Oil-based primer is absorbed by bare wood and seeps into any cracks, in contrast to latex primer, which does not penetrate the cracks in bare wood like oil primer does. Cracks in trim and other detail areas will be caulked after priming. When the oil primer is dry, we apply 2 complete coats of high-grade acrylic finished paint. The cost to restore the steeple will be $23,000. It includes labor, materials, a 65-foot lift, including its required insurance, delivery, etc. The cost for the lift, after all expenses, including environmental charges, trucking, insurance, and fuel, will be $4,200.
In addition to 23?
No, I believe that's included in it, it says here. It included labor, the bid includes the bid is $23,000. It includes labor, materials, and a 65-foot lift, including all its insurance requirements, etc. And since we had asked for a breakout of the costs for the lift and whatever, he's advising us that the cost for the lift, after all expenses, including environmental charges, is $4,200. This is a 1-month rental. It costs the same for a 2-week rental as a 1-month, and all expenses are taken into account. If it rains for a period of time during the lift rental, there's enough time to compensate for the inclement weather when it is locked in for a month. This is a 3-coat paint job. The paint should last 15 years or more. We have painted multiple steeples and churches throughout southern Vermont. Some of them are the Townsend Church on the Common, West Dummerston Baptist Church in Dummerston, the Congregational Church in Wilmington, and we are a fully insured company. Welcome the opportunity to visit with us if we have any questions. And says for an additional $23,000, we will, if desired, paint the front gable trim and the 3 complete and apply 3. Paint the front gable trim with 3 complete coats of paint as depicted in our proposal. While lift is on site and being a 1-month rental, there will be enough time to paint the gable while we are there. The rest of the church should be simple enough to paint in the future with ladders. And they do have a certificate of insurance. And he does comment on the RFP. He indicates that the The RFP is written so that any firm can simply prime with finished paint or just apply 2 coats of finished paint and call it done. The exception being a small area where you requested oil primer. It should have specified a complete coat of oil primer and 2 coats of finish. The way the RFP is written, if followed, will probably give a paint job that will last only 5 to 7 years. My company paints for a longer time and strives to at least a 15-year term
Okay.
for our info.
All right, well, let's see. So I think that was an interesting, we have 3 bids, one for 10,800, one for 14,200, and one for $23,000 for the same project. Complete, are all of the bids equivalent? 2 coats of premium quality finish on all surfaces, is not just open surfaces. 2 coats of finished paint on shutters. I'm looking at the new painters. Caulking, oil prime all new wood and bare wood surfaces. Is that something that,
I didn't hear what you said.
oil prime all new wood,
See, that's the problem.
bare wood surfaces?
New wood,
New wood and bare wood, any wood that does no paint on it.
correct. What Mo is saying there is he primes the whole thing after sanding it down.
So he's gonna scrape the entire
Yes.
building, none of these mentioned scraping all loose paint and falling paint.
And he's
What does
also
he say there?
addressed the issue of there being lead paint and
Mhm.
possibly, and I'm not a painter, it's a question I wish I could ask someone if they were here, is, does it require that the matter be handled according to EPA guidelines, given that it probably does have lead paint?
Well,
What's that?
he is an EPA.
He already did it.
He,
He did it on school. He's EPA certified. didn't he?
oh, I'm not questioning that.
Oh, I'm sorry.
All I'm saying is this guy
Do we
mentions that
require
being
the other-
EPA requirements, he's capable of doing it.
So
So
is
either
this
of the
guy.
other two,
This one too said.
that
Yes,
was,
he
as
did.
Tom indicated.
But he did not indicate,
How to do it.
he
He's just as thorough an explanation as Mo did.
did not include any certificate of insurance.
Yeah.
So I guess my question is simply, does this job in any legal way require that it be done with EPA considerations being addressed?
All painting on lead buildings in the United States should be done, require that.
Yes,
Okay,
yes. They test, they find it, they take care of it.
and I did Newfane or
It
this.
didn't say, I'm gonna ask, read Dan Tower. Hi, Dan, it's Dot, can you hear me? Can you unmute yourself? So there, we did get 3 estimates, you heard us read them off, the prices wide and varied, $10,800, $14,200, and $23,000. Originally, when, I'll tell you, originally, the town, let me find it, because I brought it with me, just in case something like this happened. When you guys did the National Historic, you thought that the cost. When you applied to the Vermont Historic Preservation Grant application, the estimate for the steeple siding repair and painting together, you estimated for $15,000. But now we're looking at just painting for $10,000, $14,000, or $23,000. How does that sit with you? Dan? You have to unmute yourself.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes, yes.
Okay, first of all, I can't speak for the rest of the committee, obviously, but my recollection is the previous time we put this out to bid for the painting, we had 3 estimates then as well. From Newfane Painters, one from Mominy, and one other, and the range was 13 to, I have to look it up, but the average was around 15 I think, for the painting. So, I mean, this is a bigger spread from the lowest to the highest than we had the previous time. So I guess, we would just have to examine these as you're doing in the fine print and make sure that they're all bidding on exactly the same thing.
Right,
That's the first problem.
because the $15,000 estimate, and then then the flashing repairs is another $8,000 you thought, and then Kerry's bid is $9,000, so it's whatever it is plus 9420.
This is
Yeah.
not far off.
Okay.
Couple of things in mind.
I mean,
Obviously,
we
Go
would
ahead,
have
Dan.
trouble, paying for the Mominy bid as it's currently priced with the funds in hand. But anyway.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, we're gonna do some stuff around. Probably we'll end up tabling any decision tonight so that we can make some
about it.
reference contracts and check a couple of things before we certainly award this, but let's hear.
What I would like to do, if it's okay, is I'd like to hear everybody else's opinion, then I'll spew mine, because I've been into this a bit for a while. So if anybody else, Stan or Gwen or you,
I wasn't listening, I was reading the mom and painters when you were going over yours, and I'm similarly with Dot. I don't recall if either of the other two are gonna fully scrape the exterior of the steeple. And secondly, are both of them,
scrape loose and peeling paint. What he says here,
This was scrape all loose and peeling paint also.
and what his Mo's at.
this guy is scrape the entire steeple surface
Mhm.
thoroughly to remove as much old paint as possible. And he described the scraper, and then he's going to use a bleach solution, which we should keep in mind regarding the school basement, to remove dirt, pollen, mold, and mildew, and any other contaminants. So he's treating the whole exterior of the steeple with this material to prevent any future rising up of mold, mildew, et cetera. Which I don't know if that's I don't know if it justifies a $9,000 difference, but it's something I'm wondering if, I guess what I'm wondering if we table it and then ask whoever of the other two remaining, if their bid includes complete scraping of the steeple. Because it may not look like it needs it, but
That's
how do you
correct.
check if it's bonded
That's
properly?
correct.
It
That's
seems
correct.
to me that the right way to do it would be to have the whole thing scraped.
Yeah, because once you get up there and get close, then that's,
Right.
And what happens if this other person, whomever we select, other than Mo, get into it,
That's right.
that's the point.
It's 100
You
year old,
hit that
over
one.
100 year old.
That's right.
We've been working
Do
in orders.
you have any more comments, Tim?
No, I think that's pretty much my thought on it.
Gwen?
You know,
Not that I'm the chair here, sorry. Gwen, do you have anything to say?
no,
Bruce, what do you wanna say?
Do you wanna say?
Well, I think we need to compare apples to apples, I
Mhm.
agree. I think we will eventually table this decision. There is a meeting house meeting tomorrow. I can discuss that with them, and we can, let them know that we're tabling it at this time, and this is what we're looking at, make sure that we're getting the job that they expect, and this idea of totally scraping the building, including the gable end, and Cloroxing it is a little more than they thought it was gonna be. I don't know if they can afford to consider that amount.
Okay, are you okay?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, first off, before the bid was put in, I did have a discussion mode, as I was telling him, we're requesting the bid. And he said it's gonna be 2 weeks up on that list. We see why. The problem with that, I think there's problems with each one of these bids, and we can all, like you said, we can review this later and iron it out. I suggest we discuss it now a bit, table it, re-talk about it. It's too important of an issue just to make a quick decision. Now, with what Mo said is, or let me say, I'm biased in that I like his work, I like what he did with the school, I like the way he treated school, I like everything he did, soup to nuts, I don't have to go crazy about it. The problem with that is, we can't afford it. Because when we give 10 grand to Kerry, that leaves us, don't quote me the number, but I think we have like $26,000.
27,000.
There we go, so that leaves us nothing in the kitty, and that's, to me, unacceptable, because I wanted to at least leave $10,000 to $15,000 in the meeting house fund in case we wanted to do matching grants down the road, yes, Scott.
That $27,000 is still contingent upon the match, that doesn't include the matching grant from the other.
I said, I meant that,
Okay,
what I meant was.
so whatever he's gonna match,
10,000.
but right now, without depositing his grant or his match, the committee has a little over 27,000.
Okay, so the 10,000 grants rise at 5, and we have, and there's matching 5, it's 10 that would pay for Kerry, correct?
He's going to donate $10,000
Correct, that's what I
to
thought.
us.
Okay, so that covers Kerry relatively speaking, within soup and nuts here, $500, whatever it is. That leaves us to $27,000. His quote was how much?
23.
So we're left with $4,000 roughly.
Well, there's a window cost, right? You have windows
Oh,
outstanding?
they have windows, half
Oh, that's
the
true,
windows
too.
are paid for as well, and the other half of an order is done, the other half of the order hasn't been placed until we look at the quality of those windows, so
Okay.
there will be no money left.
Okay, to me, that's not a good idea. So that takes care of that.
We think
This-
that takes care of that.
Well, I don't see how we, as much as I'd like to have Mo do it, and I think we're getting the right job because of the examples he gave. He did Dummerston Church, I say 2 years ago, did it again after 20 years. I know because I personally know him, after all the time I spent with him, that I've been married since 1975, and he's been doing this before then. So he knows what he's doing. If we want it done right, that's a guarantee. These aren't, in my estimation. So I think we all have to revisit exactly what's gonna be done here, especially in light of what he has exposed that could possibly happen. Also, we're dealing with a 200-year-old church. And when was the last time that was done? Years and years and years ago, probably. And I think it's important to note that we don't wanna have occur a 5 to 7 year painting job for $10,000 to $15,000. I don't see the benefit of that. We would be better off tabling it, not doing it, knowing what we're getting into as far as price goes, as far as work goes, and have a fun process where we're raising money to pay for it. But I'm really against drawing it down to under $10,000 because we don't have any money for matching funds, and you just did the slam dunk about the work that needs to be done. So that's a problem. I haven't looked at new fame painters. This looked really good, but it's not the Cadillac, it's not the perfect. And I know what I get with him. And I don't know how closely you all looked at that school building. I just looked at it again the other day. I mean, the reveals, the lines, and it was done spotlessly and quickly and efficiently.
I know, but like you
That's
said, I don't know that
We can't afford it.
can't afford it.
We can't.
So I'd like to, any other discussion? If not, I'm gonna make a motion to
Just-
table this. I can make
just one
copies of
thing.
the bids for everybody, but.
This says scrape all loose. This says scrape all loose. The impression, if I didn't read that, he's gonna scrape the whole thing.
Regards.
He's gonna- We're gonna get a 20-year job, without a doubt. And the proof of the pudding is Dummerston Central. He did Town Hall, he did Peter Myers, we can go on and on and on with buildings that man's done in this area. So I think we should table it, review it, talk about it, reconsider it, and if we can't afford it, and we wanna go with whomever, if we end up wanting to go with the Colony Painters, if we have a fund, we can wait till next year and raise the money and have it done correctly where it will last 20 years. I have a problem with 5 to 7 years.
I'm sorry.
I might be wrong. I'm not saying that never happens, but maybe it doesn't need to be completely straight. I'm just saying that's the guarantee.
Dan?
I would, at this point, and so it's fortunate that I wished in a way that we had looked at the RFP more clearly stated it, so that we, in fact, didn't have the room for the bidders handling it differently. I'd almost like to go back to Newfane Cares and say, if you scrape the whole thing, if you treated it, what would your bid be? But we already have bids, so I don't know how, I'm a little quandary about doing the best thing for the job to be done the best possible without draining that fund to the max, to the final limit.
Yeah, I'm not into that at all.
And so, yeah, I think a discussion about how to handle this is certainly worth looking into and performing.
You have a
Yeah.
question? Yes, sir.
I just wanna comment, I think, Mr. Mulmoney is, that's a Cadillac and Mercedes job. And, the other guy, I don't know him too well, I have never heard him, but with Tom Spatz, I've seen his work. His work is excellent. I don't think he's gonna go up there in a town that he lives in, which is gonna be a point of his sales, to do a half-ass job. I think he'll do an excellent job. I think I've seen the work he's done. I've seen him go over other people's work because, cheap, that when you bid something, you're gonna get the lowest price, and I just like his work, so I just wanted to say that if he doesn't have everything in the language there, I don't think he's gonna skip or, bypass anything.
I tend to agree with you, however, it's not earned. And that's the bottom line.
I think our weakest thing here in town is writing requests for proposal. Because when we ask for requests for proposal, I don't know, we don't know, we're not that profession. And I don't know how big cities do it, I guess they hire planners or they have home inspectors, but they have professionals who would actually do that. And I think that is a bit of a weakness in Brookline. I agree that by tabling this, making copies for us to look at, maybe asking for some people to call up the references. And I can bring this information to our advisory committee tomorrow night. We'll be meeting here, and maybe we can get some guidance from everybody, and then bring this to the agenda on April 6th.
I'm sorry, I'm uncomfortable with it with two respects, three respects,
You're uncomfortable with what?
with the whole thing. On three respects, the cost of the most expensive one, the fact that what happens if these two gentlemen, or these two companies get up and they start scraping away, they can easily climb over loose paint. That's not hard to do. I know when I got up and started to scrape the end of that school and was warned, no, you can't do that because you have to be APA certified.
Right.
Bruce himself got up there a lot, so I know what was needed. Now you should see that end that was done by him. In saying that, I want the guarantee that's gonna be a 15 to 20 year paint job. And I don't feel that that's gonna happen with these two vendors, because I feel that it's too tempting that, look, there's no argument with it. Mo Mom and his crew was gonna go up there and scrape the whole thing. When he told me 2 weeks ago, I was, Mo, what the hell are you gonna do? Well, now we know, don't we? And there's a reason why Dummerston Church had done a second time.
We're talking about tabling it, you either wanna table it or you don't wanna table it.
I do want to do it.
Okay, so let's table it, and then we'll, like I said,
And we
make
can
copies
discuss
of it, you can review it. I'll
Okay,
bring it to the committee tomorrow,
okay,
and
fair enough.
we might have to
We don't have
get
time
some
for
references.
this.
All right, so I'm gonna make a motion.
Dot, may I just make one other comment?
Yes.
I found in my records here, the previous bids that we received in 2019.
Okay.
And Mominy Painters, at that point in August of 19, bid 15,000 on this very same job. So I don't know why it's now gonna cost 23. That would be a question for them, but Newfane Painters.
Bring that to the meeting tomorrow night.
Just a
And
moment.
did it have the same detail that the current one does, Dan?
Well, I assume so. I don't have the exact thing in front of me, but
Oh, okay.
Dan,
yeah,
Dan is the same Mominy Painters, because there's two of them.
yes, I know. We got bids from both of them last time.
Okay.
Omni Painters was 15, and Southern Vermont Painting and Restoration, which is Mo's brother, was
Oh,
September.
okay,
17.
okay, I hear him.
All right, so at this time, I'm gonna make a motion that we table the painting bids for further review. May I have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Bruce. Any further discussion? I am gonna bring it to the advisory committee tomorrow night, and I'll share with everybody else what. All right, hearing that, all those in favor of tabling this bid signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, okay, passed unanimously. We'll bring it up on the April 6th. All right. Okay, let me make sure I'm in the same spot here. Thank you. Okay,
Thank you, Dan.
yes.
Yeah.
All right, now we're down to review, discuss, and comment on the Putney Hazard Mitigation Plan. Guy was kind enough to actually print off all 77 pages from the Putney Mountain Plan. I scanned through it and printed up some pages that I thought had some interesting things. Stan, did you actually read all 77 pages?
Yeah.
Oh,
I didn't, I skimmed, I should say, I speed read it.
Okay.
I didn't sit and analyze every aspect of it, but I did find it quite interesting. There are portions of it, like ours was, I went back after that and read our
Oh,
last,
wow, okay.
which was done in, what, 2016 or 17, maybe 18. And some of the same stuff was in, you can tell the same person at Wyndham Regional Commission
Worked on it.
did both of them.
That's
I mean, I saw some things in here, you know, it was interesting, it showed how many outages they had, how many people were affected, the typical number of outage hours people had, and it actually has been increasing the number of customers and length of time that the outages have lasted, which you would think, as we have modernized things, that number would go down, but it's
Maybe that's due to the flood where they were completely.
maybe, but anywhere from 2015 to 2020, we have all sorts of number of hours, but you know, 10, 11, 13 hours and that was that. And well, what do you, Alyssa Savato would like us just to comment on it. I mean, they have low earthquake rating and they have a low dam rating and low inundation flood rating and low landslide and such, but what they do have high would be flash flooding, snow, ice, winter storms, and high invasive species, which I think a lot of us have nowadays. So how would you like me to address Wyndham Regional about this? About Putney? Stan?
I did not note anything that adversely affected the citizens of Brookline. And it seemed to be quite thorough. They've got the same overview and oversight that we Brookline does and every other town in Wyndham County. And I have no, representing the citizens of Brookline as a select board member, I have no problem basically with the plan at all, so that would be, you know, my suggestion. So we simply
Acknowledge that it was
Acknowledge.
reviewed, it was on our agenda, and it would be something that we may refer to as we work on our plan updates.
I don't think there was anything that was even close to our borders here or any other town's borders that I could see that would adversely affect any other towns. They have a number of projects that they want to do for their own citizens, and most of them seemed appropriate.
All right, so I will send a short email to Alyssa, I'll CC everybody on it, and again, we will have that, our request to review this joining town.
So,
And I should add that when I looked at ours back when several years ago,
Yeah.
some of us in this room look a lot different than we do today.
Oh, yeah.
Fine, just whiter,
Fine, I
whiter.
hear ya.
It's amazing what 8 years of.
You were doing that.
It's amazing what 8 years of a slip will do to your
I
hair.
know. All right, well, we're gonna continue moving on. Mark, I moved your report up, you're next. Mr. Bills, road supervisor report, update on road We could talk about the FEMA paving on Putney Road eventually and your summer needs, mowers, wheeled excavators, things such and such. And we probably should also talk about leaf blower and, so you got it.
Okay, well, to start with, since our last meeting, we've been having some milder weather, some wind and rains. And the roads appear to be holding up rather well. I've gone out with a grader a few times just to take the surface top of the ruts off. And I have applied some crushed stone to areas that were starting to rut more than others, and then leveled those out. And at this point, they're still working rather well. I patched a couple of potholes just before this last snowstorm, and I was in shock that the pothole that I filled out by the Green Iron Bridge was deep enough, so I thought it was gonna adhere rather well.
Yeah, I did.
And the next morning, it was as if I never patched it. It disappeared.
Patch that one year.
Is that the one you hit?
Yeah.
I had one too. You're talking about the one,
Every night, and I don't know
you know,
if
the
it's
least.
the weather, maybe the way the plows hit it, there's plow shoes on the bottom, may have gone into that hole, but no sign of where it even attempted to patch.
That one near the Fegley's, right?
Yes.
Okay.
You know, I keep this patch up at the town garage, and as needed, I put some outside where the sunshine can beat on it because it warms it up to a soft,
Sure.
and then I apply it. So we're supposed to be having some more warmth, and I will try it again, but I was just shocked. at
Frustrating,
that.
right? Yeah.
I did put crushed stone in an area up at Whitney Hill intersection, and that stayed, so maybe I'll have to put stone in there until the weather gets up to a certain temperature and will work better. Okay, so I again reached out to the Alta JCB company that we have rented from in the past couple of years to get their rental rates for the same machine that we had rented. The person that I had dealt with other years is no longer with that company. I talked to the new sales representative, and before the last person had left that I was familiar with, she told him that the same rate should be given to us as we've been paying. So the rate's gonna stay the same if we rent from them, which is $6,000 a month for the wheel excavator. And that would be included the ditch bucket and digging bucket. So one has teeth, one does not. And as far as the delivery fee is an added $550 each way.
Oh, so that went up $100.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I asked them, just for curiosity, because they had mentioned anytime you rent from any of these companies, if there's particular machinery that the municipals like, they give you 70% of your rentals can be applied for a purchase. That's something they throw out there. So repeat that.
For how many years?
Look, excuse me.
Over how many years? Just kidding.
I didn't ask that part. He said if we were looking serious about renting, to let him know around June 1st, and he would hold the machine for us.
Oh, I think you would know earlier than that, but it won't mow, huh?
No, he said, I did ask about the mowers, they have nothing set up for the mower, they all will accept a mower. There's a few different types, there's, you know, brush hogs, the flail mowers, the mulcher heads, all depending upon what you wanna use it for. So they're all in acceptance of those, but they didn't have any on it this time. It's something that I guess if you were gonna purchase and you wanted to talk about it with them, they would.
Order
Want to set one up that way.
What should we do though? What do you think?
Well, I also called the past people that we've rented the over the rail mower.
Okay.
And they're HP Fairfields, out of Concord, New Hampshire. A year ago, when I rented, the same person has been their rental person for years. And she wanted to know, because when I went to schedule a rental of the over the rail mower, somebody had already taken the window that I was hoping for. So last year when I mowed, she said, would you like to lock in that week that you want for next year? She said, if you're not gonna use it, just let me know a couple months in advance so that they can put it back out there. So I had locked in and she had me down for the week of June 21st through July 1st. So we have that reserved with the over the rail mower
Okay.
with HP Fairfield. However, their price has gone up. And this year, their rental rate for that same machine, I believe we paid $3,300 last year, maybe 35, and now they want $4,500 for the week. I guess that includes the delivery fee on that machine. So, last year, we were in hopes to get the same machine that would mow and dig, but didn't happen, so we rented that tractor, and the tractor does a great job. However, it would have been nice by the time September comes around,
Need it again.
it really needs a second mowing. Your sapling brush just jumps up 3 to 4 feet through the rest of the summer during the growing season. So I asked her if we wanted it for a second week, if I should get serious about another reserve, so I put in for September 26th to the 30th. She had 2 weeks open, and that was one of them. If we don't want it, I can say no when the time comes.
Mm-hmm.
But, so that reservation is a week around the 4th of July, and then a week at the end of summer.
Before Labor Day.
At $4,500 each, so
Yeah.
that's $9,000 for those rentals.
Well, we knew that the things were gonna go up, we did budget for a little bit of extra in there,
Yeah.
but,
And I figured it was something we'd have meetings to talk about this.
so they're not pressing for anything at this time? We locked in dates, you're saying?
We locked in the date, so they just would like advance notice
If we're not gonna follow through.
Yeah, they'd like a few weeks advance to give that opportunity to somebody else. So that's basically the only numbers that I have for this meeting. And I don't know, there may be others that do the same type of rentals. I haven't found anybody yet. I have called another company about excavator rentals. There's lots of tracked vehicles.
Peter has his hand up. I don't know if he's got that, anything he said.
Peter, you wanna say something?
Oh, just a dumb question. Did you mention something about 70% of rentals? What was that about?
70% of the rental fees can be applied to a purchase price if the town was interested in doing so.
Thank you.
That applies to the JCB wheeled excavator. Correct?
Yes.
I'm sorry, Mark.
No, that was everything on rentals for numbers that I have at this time. I also talked with Archie, and I guess Archie had made a plan with Stanley to, we're gonna meet Monday night.
6
and-
o'clock
and
here.
go over our grants and projects that we what we'd like to see done this summer and try to see what fits and what we can accomplish. And anybody else that I guess would like to join us Monday night.
I was gonna actually sit and on the New Fame Select Board Zoom meeting for their ARPA discussions that night. But I would like to stress for Stan and Mark and Archie to consider the number of culverts that need to be upgraded, not only from FEMA, but for our 2025 state, I can't think of the word, this state requirement for this particular upgrades that, I don't know, is 4 weeks enough?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, so I guess what we're gonna do is
Talk about it, yes.
talk about this team. I also talked with Jeff Nugent today, and Jeff also talked about that same topic, that we have to get a certain percentage done by a certain date.
Yeah.
And that he would be glad to work with us on trying to accomplish our percentage, because he says there's some jobs that are gonna be more detailed than others. Some roads, this is all about road segments that we're accomplishing with the Clean Water Act, and some of them are as simple as just putting stone down the ditch, and some are quite a bit more complicated. So he said we might wanna look at this map on Monday night and decide there is segments that are high priority and segments that are just need to get done by a certain deadline. So he would like to see the high priorities done, but if we're not gonna meet our deadline, we might wanna back up and just do some of the light duty work to meet those.
Do you have a question before you go any further?
Sure.
Did you have a question, Peter? Do you have a question?
Sorry, no, actually, I asked my question already.
Oh, okay, all right. So, okay, go ahead, Norm.
All right, so Jeff Nugent, we talked about a lot of different areas around town that he's familiar with and with those grants, and he's planning to meet with us within a month timeframe to go over this same topic as well. But he thought if we could look at the map and try to nail down some segments, that would be great. That we get the ball rolling and talk about these grants.
Question,
Yep.
have you been in this sort of meeting for this purpose with Jeff before?
I have.
Does he go over that list that exists that I referenced to you in the lobby out there earlier? There's stuff that is rated, not critical, there's what you use the term, is it
High priority.
high priority?
priority.
There's some that are extremely high priority on that same list.
Yeah.
So it's broken out, and I'm just wondering if when we do meet Monday, if that's something that we should be looking at that
Yes,
meeting.
he
Okay.
mentioned having us get out the map and maybe even writing down the areas that we
Okay.
feel we want to work with.
Good.
I talked about the section up on Holland Hill, where Brookline starts and Holland Hill ends. We have a section there that we've talked about for the past couple of years. We've had some flooding issues, and we thought that would be a good one to maybe get done. So if we can look at those and see how it's gonna fit our budget. I know our budget's depending on what FEMA does with us and what we have planned already, and then maybe there's some funding coming along for mitigations that will help, but I guess we get a general idea on Monday, or if it takes a little longer, and then he'll set with us and try to iron out a plan and tell us how we should proceed with that.
Perfect.
So if we have any questions, we can just, we'll have our meeting and then look at our map and then we'll contact you for further information, and he will be coming here
In
to
April.
set with us.
Yeah, okay.
And Dot, did you say you had talked with Megan at the last meeting?
Megan Burke,
Brunk?
Brunk, close.
Yep.
I'm trying to remember, I'm trying to print out some of these emails, and I know she wanted to be part, I wasn't sure if what you're saying about Jeff is the same thing as Wyndham Regional getting involved. Is he Wyndham Regional?
He's Wyndham Regional.
So it's probably the same group.
Yeah, she's
She's a civil engineer.
V-Trans.
V-Trans
V-Trans, she's
with
the,
Mark Pickering.
that's where, okay.
But they have knowledge of some of these grants kind of tie back and forth, as well as the state, what the state's gonna want us to do, or what's coming up, like some of our state funding on our class 2 roads, she's more to tell us when our town is
In the cycle, eligible.
eligible for grant money for some of these other projects. So she was gonna also set up a meeting with us.
So this might be,
So
alright, so
like
that's, I'm
we'll-
thinking
we'll
it's the same, but it's two different.
I think Megan is one of the people that's gonna help us fill out the TA-60 form, which is the expected budget for the
Upcoming year.
and I think it might include projects.
Yeah,
So, yeah, this is slightly different than Jeff, I think.
yeah, she, like Megan and Mark are structured grants, for box culverts and paving and some of these bigger projects, but they oversee everything. So I expect we'll be called by her to have a meeting as well, and that'll also give us knowledge of any grant information we need to get to the site.
What's her last name again?
Brunk,
Brunk.
B-R-U-N-K.
I am going, I made a note to myself, I'm gonna review my emails and look for that particular one. I recall it, I didn't act upon it, I guess, because I didn't do the reading. So I'll double check
She does
that.
all the towns, so I'm sure she'll make it a point to make sure we have met with her, Mark Pickering. And the same with Jeff, that he said he would be reaching out to her. So if we can get a general idea of what we think we want to accomplish, I have a lot of ideas. Jeff, will help us pick out priority segments that he feels is right. And then after talking to Megan, we should be able to kind of figure out where we're going this summer, or how much we can do. Also, talking with Jeff this afternoon, I brought up the topic about Bennett Road that washed out and we've done nothing with. And so he contacted Alan May, who was at the meeting that we saw him in Dover. And it's because it's class 4, there's still a lot of questions on how much money to put in because of how much funding is available. Alan's question back was, is that road, he knows that it goes to Johnny's camp, Jeff stated there was a camp on there. And he wondered if the culverts needed to be in place, or could you use a specific state designed, like a water bar that eased the water pressure. And I guess the question about it is the waters that come down across that Bennett Road, are they hydraulically connected with the waters on the low side of Putney Mountain Road? Do they come all the way down to Grassy Brook?
I think they do.
If they're connected, there's a good chance it could be eligible for
Sure.
some grant money. So I told Jeff that I had hiked both areas at one time or another. And there are springs that start on the upper side of Bennett Road. And then they go through the culverts and they do connect. But the water's down where the biggest flooding was at the end of the pavement. That water comes all the way there, and Jeff was unaware that that was the way it was, so he was gonna get his map out. Some of those gorges are more, they allow just runoff, rain runoff, and some of them are spring water and runoff together. So, but if they're hydraulically connected, it could lead to
Repair money
some-
coming in to
some more
subsidize.
repair money. So that's something that Jeff and Alan were gonna talk more of and get back to.
Excellent.
Do you know if the map that we're gonna be looking at on Monday has that particular area of town demonstrated with streams shown?
Yeah, there's a watershed map there,
Okay.
but I do believe that with our town map plan, I think there's multiple maps in here that show culverts, roads, what we're looking for. So I think we can look at that and get a general idea of it.
On that frame, you see that flipped over piece of paper there. I
Yeah.
put that there. That is the handout. And Stan, if you, for Monday night, it might be useful. That's the handout with information of grants and contacts. I guess I could have put it in that drawer, but I was stuck it there and now I see it.
Okay. Yeah, well, thank you for pointing that out. We'll
Yeah, so that's
put
what
that
that
in
is.
a good spot. Okay, so I believe that sums up most of what I had to, like I say, the mud season's all about timing and temperature. And because we've had rains, the rains have, I believe, been pulling some frost out each time it rains. The snows that we have landed on unfrozen ground, and that also pulls frost out. And I continue to monitor the roads after the winds. I throw debris out of the roads. But it appears like the roads are losing some of that frost, and I'm not sure how deep the frost got this winter, being it was an unusual winter. It started out very cold, but lack of snow and rain, I think, is so far the roads are very passable. I'll touch them up with the grader as needed and put more stone as needed, but so far they appear to be holding on.
Do you have enough material?
Yeah, I still have, out of the 2 piles that I had, I've only gone into, I've used almost 2/3 of 1 pile, so I feel like we're still in good shape. And I also found out that the pits open back up in Jamaica if needed. There's more available at a closer.
Anything else?
No, I guess that's it.
All right, well, thank you, Mark, and you're welcome to stay, of course, but you're also
Yeah,
welcome
there
to
were
come.
some topics that I wanted to stay
Okay.
for, so I'm gonna stay.
All right, Stan, highway grants, salt sand shed,
Yeah, the sand salt shed grant is in the final stages. I have a series of emails that I have read, some of them addressed to me and some addressed to others that I happen to get forwarded them. And there was a semi-finalized presentation by Ron Bell, an engineer, sent on the 18th of February, I believe it was. And and again, as I mentioned at the last meeting, there were 5 different pages that needed to be corrected, and I got a sense of a follow-up email from Mr. Bell that he has corrected them. So it's further along in that sense. However, there appears to be a concern about the itemization of materials that's going to be needed to put it out to bid. There's a discussion going on, I believe, between Chris Hunt and Ron Bell. Ron made comment that he's had another town where the process of just giving the square footage of the side of the building allowed the contractor to make the calculations necessary to come up with a price, rather than the engineer telling him there's this many 2x8s by 10s and this number of sheathing, et cetera, et cetera. So there's a discussion going on. According to the state, they need it broken down. Ron said, well, you made an exception here, we make one. So there's a debate going on there. And I've asked Margot Gia to provide me with a summary of all the grants that the town has through them that are in operation at this time. My sense is that she's overwhelmed because second request I've had of her, one thing or another, and you don't hear anything for a while.
It's 2 months.
And then you'll get a comment that she's noticed it and she'll have the answer to you by a certain time. So I'm coming in tomorrow to try to piece some of this together. There's another quandary that I have. As you may recall, we had an amendment to a existing grant that was in the amount of $36,000, I guess, that we had done an emergency meeting on this board to approve it. It was late October, late November, I believe. And on the 8th of March, this month, there was a correspondence between a Ross Goen of V-Trans and Margot and David Jones, our former select board member, indicating that there was more money available from the feds to put Vermont in a situation where it can provide additional monies, the monies that had already been approved.
For inflation?
I don't know specifically. It didn't include that terminology. All it said was, we have extra money and your extra allotment raises your amount to $109,000.
Excuse me for a minute. Might be infrastructure money,
I don't know.
because when I was watching 60 Minutes last weekend, and Buttigieg was on, Secretary of Transportation, he said, money's all out to the states. It's up to the states, the governors, to dish it out. If I remember right, we were getting $2 billion, but I'm not sure of that. So that might be what you're doing.
It may very well be. I didn't know what the federal source was or what program it was from. It may have been in a letter, I just didn't absorb it. But having gotten that email that had been forwarded to David, from David and Margot, David included another footnote which said, oh, with that extra money, we may not need the $36,000 that we had voted on and approved or to apply for last November. So I've got to pin that down. I'm gonna have to probably save myself some time and ask David to be of help on that. He could tell me where the original is of the grant or the documents pertaining to it. Because I don't seem to find them in the file cabinet, and they may be on a hard drive somewhere, I don't know.
Yeah.
But so,
A lot's changed in 5 years since we started.
right,
The cost of everything is on the rise, and when we started out, kind of knowing what it was gonna cost, and there was the inflation of everything, and it's just still continuing to.
my suspicion that's probably what this is made available to towns across the state that are in this grant program, but I don't know what grant program it is, how much it was originally approved for. I know it's now 109, and if it went up that much, then we don't need supposedly probably 36,000.
Yeah.
I gotta find out what it's for, because once we get the bid in from the garage, town garage, I'm expecting that given feedback that we've heard, I was talking with, I don't know if you were there last week or not, said some of the parts or materials that person was using for his project had gone up fourfold since last year.
I believe.
So that kind of puts, scary thoughts in your mind about what are we gonna be confronted with, and will there ever be enough money,
Right.
So,
As we're comparing notes with other towns on the same shed, the salt sand shed, I believe our design came from the state. It was a state blueprint that was put out. And at the time, we decided we only needed 2/3 of the size of the structure. Town of Townsend has the exact same structure. Jamaica, I think they might have one, Wardsboro's on there, they're doing one, but I'm not sure if they use the full blueprint or the downsized one, so in comparison, you might wanna look at that.
yeah, I got the feeling that the bid has not been put out for new things. They didn't mention Wardsboro. The last thing I'd like to point out, two things actually. The last thing I'd like to point out is that we were at one point talking about sharing the same site manager, inspector with Newfane. Mr. Ross Goen indicated, or Chris Hunt, one of those two individuals said, you can't do that. For some reason, either from historical perspective or practicality, somebody's checked with somebody and they said that it makes it too unwieldy for the person to be doing two.
Yeah,
So
keep the focus.
the comment was to Margot, and the copy of it came to the town of Brookline, which I've gotten and it'll be in the folder, is that it's gonna have to be a separate job, separate RFP that goes out for the construction manager.
Will the town have any say in approving any of the contractors that have been on our project?
I honestly don't know, that's a
Okay,
question,
I'll
that's a
talk to you
good
about
question, I'd like that,
I'll
I'd
share
try to
that with
find
you
out.
tomorrow, okay.
And then, so the second thing is, my goal is for the next meeting that we have as a board, to have all of the charts in Microsoft Word and or Excel updated, have a handle on everything that's a grant related item, and then have an update on what it is that, if Archie or yourself haven't discussed it, what we're gonna do with highways this year, or at least in terms of what the projects are that we can do, and then what, so that the board has the perspective to know what it wants to do based on the cost, et cetera, et cetera.
Great.
So that's all I have to say at this point on that.
Right, how about the winter budget category for grants and V-Trans, you wanted us to talk about that?
Yeah, I had hoped to print up several pages that I had handwritten after going through the orange book, which this TA 60 that we're supposed to complete
Yeah,
breaks it down into summer and winter budget items, revenue and expenses for each category. So it's on that form, it requires it that way, and there are two other reports. If we have damage that is handled by, I believe it is FEMA, the methodology that they use to decide how much the town will get involves subtracting the winter costs from another number that they derive for a town of our size. So the amount would not be determinable unless someone went in and did some extra work to break that out. So it makes sense in that perspective, that second issue, in other words, to maintain a breakout of it as we have been right along. It's probably for the very same reason that at some point, someone said, oh, we gotta maintain these because, and then there's a third report, I can't remember what it is off the top of my head, but it also is dependent upon numbers of the winter
and summer.
revenue and costs for that as well, broken out separate.
All right,
So it's the good idea we had of consolidating wasn't a good idea after all, makes it simple in one sense, but we're dependent upon completing reports upon which funding is granted and the reports needing to be filled out for V-Trans, we can't do it.
Well, by the same token, we can code it in the Treasury Department to winter or summer things, so we can break it out. That TA 60, which is what we do every year, explains how much we've spent on roads. I know the report, we've done it every year. And it's a little time consuming, but we have to do it. It's the only way that we're gonna get those allotted funds for the highways that we get every year, which is close to $40,000.
Yeah. Yeah, so you're reaffirming what they're saying, and I appreciate your willingness to
No,
to
it's,
go through that, because I know
yeah,
it's
it's,
extra work.
it's something, yeah, well, it's getting more and more with reports and data collecting than ever before. Every time I turn around, I'm looking at reports all week and, but that's the nature of the beast. That's what we have to do. It plays hell with, budgets, but that's the nature of the beast. That's what it is.
Thank you very much. Anything else, Dan?
I had items further down on the list in the agenda, but not today.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, so we'll move on to the town clerk report, Mr. Guy Tanza.
I just want to remind everyone that we have a vote coming up on the 23rd of March, which is the school annual meeting. It's the time that you get to look at the budget, which is close to $13 million this year. You're also gonna elect some of the local officials for the school district. And it's really important that everyone attends this event because it's your money. It's a lot of money. And it would be nice to have everybody here. The other thing is that I'm gonna need the Board of Civil Authority to be here for to help me count on that evening. So that's another thing. It's only 10 articles, I believe. Is it 10 articles, Glenn?
10.
So it shouldn't take too long. And the other thing is that dog licensing is due by April 1st. So hopefully we've sold 28 dog licenses so far, but that's always the case, kind of like the mad rush at the end of March and the beginning of April. But this year we're not gonna be as lenient with the penalties because I can see that it's turned into a thing where people have just laid back so much that they just forgot about it, so it's an ongoing thing.
I'm gonna interject here because what I did today is I wrote 22 letters, form letters to the residents who did not register last year. And I wrote each one a handwritten note with their rabies due date and to bring it in before April 1st. After that, we're gonna definitely start assessing the fines, but we'll give some kind of leniency because.
Well, the issue, I don't know, I'm not sure. The people who didn't pay last year, that year's closed out, so we'll just have it added on to this year.
They
As
would
revenue,
have to
yeah.
start anew this year. If they don't register, I will go back
But
and assess.
the ones who, I guess, okay, I'm confused. The ones who did not register last year, yeah, there's 21 of them, I know. Are we gonna charge them the $50 fee?
No, I'm saying if
Okay.
they get their paperwork in for
So we just be giving that
2022, for 2022, that I would not retroactively fine them. I'd be in court for a long time otherwise.
Yes, no, and I get that.
I could, yeah, so I said I would not retroactively fine you, please by April 1st, I gave them my home phone number, call me. And it will help you out, but I'm gonna leave this with you, this was the form letter I made up and the list.
Yep.
And
Okay.
any new, if you could send me a current dog list, that would be
Yeah.
great.
Okay, and like I said, so there's the vote and dogs and the office has been busy. For whatever reasons, I'm not sure, but people are doing their taxes, so consequently they're asking about their tax bills and what they paid last year and 2 years and so forth, but we're doing okay. Everything's under control, I guess, at this point.
I added under here, since you're now also the treasurer, any treasurer comments? How's it go?
It's going very well. There's a couple of things I've discovered. There's some bank recs that haven't been done in 6 months, but that's neither here nor there. We'll take care of that. I'm working with someone. We'll finish it tomorrow. We worked last weekend. I'm doing it myself because it takes a little bit of work and some record keeping and some data search and so forth. And I just didn't want to have Judy spend a lot of time on that. And it's not against the law for me to do it because I didn't really do the
You are
check
treasurer.
warrants, so that doesn't matter. And we're in good shape, you know, the only thing is I want to express that the highway budget is in pretty dire straits at this point. We still have one more quarter to collect taxes, but we spent $81,000 more than we've taken in already this year. So that's you know, it's a tough thing. I'm hoping that FEMA will come through and we'll be okay. So I just wanna keep that in the back of your mind because if that's the case, then we may have to borrow some money or use some ARPA money. And again, I don't know how that's ever sugared out. Did you ever find out anything in regards to the ARPA funding?
Typical of federal government.
I saw your email, so,
Yeah.
all right, I'm gonna excuse myself and let you finish with the ARPA
Okay.
business.
There's actually two things. The first one is response to your question, and if they, as true to form, referred me back to the manual, the final report, which is a duplicate almost of the interim report, and said, read page 14 or 15, and also page 26.
Yeah, I know.
So I did that, and the information that we, in my personal opinion, that we were led to believe by someone who came in recently to tell us that there's no strings attached and it's for governmental services, is not interpreting that phrase correctly. I went in and focused on that because I had used that term indicating that we had been advised, I didn't name an individual or entity that did that the ARPA money as an allotment can be viewed as government
Lost revenue.
government revenue, and that there were no restrictions to it. They have not provided me the answer in the way that is the US Treasury that I would have expected them to. And if you go back and read it, it does say government services. But then when you go down and say what categories can we fund from the ARPA monies for government services, it's all those restrictions that a 61 restriction.
Yeah, it's almost a
And you
catch
gotta
22.
use the codes and all
Those
that.
restrictions dissolve after April 1st, is that what I was reading there?
No, no.
Well, I think that the bottom
Well, there's
line,
a phrase to that, but I don't think it meant it that way. I'm sorry.
no, you're right, and I think the bottom line is that this is still in motion, and I think they haven't really come to any conclusions.
But
We as a town will file our expenditures showing zero for this first period, and we're good. That's just the way.
I did get an email from them, the US Treasury, advising me, and I don't know if I sent it to you both. If I haven't, I will. That the US Treasury is holding a seminar
Yeah, I saw
this coming Monday at 3 p.m. And I've got it installed in my calendar to attend. And I would, since I don't know what else you've got planned, but you might find it interesting.
Yeah,
And I did, it says, ask questions now, so we'll have that question, so I asked the very same question I asked the first time. At 3 o'clock on this coming Monday, the 21st.
For what?
For the US Treasury's seminar on ARPA.
Okay.
I think they're gonna be having several of them, I think.
Yeah, there's
I wouldn't know.
there's a lot of ARP, in fact, there's more webinars out there and meetings and, you know, which I anticipated, and it's certainly come to fruition.
It's kind of funny though, they say if you have a question, send your question to this email address, and that's what I did. And then I got back an email saying,
Look here,
you know, we got your request, and if you want an answer to it,
I saw that, and I just,
submit your inquiry to the same address I sent the first one.
I know.
And then they give you a phone number to call, and then you're on hold for a bit, and someone answers, and you get the response. I'm sorry, I'm not authorized to answer questions like that. It must go to the policy department, and that's where it ended up, and they were the people that supposedly
Yeah.
sent me, basically saying, read the whole thing again and figure it out, it's just what it amounts to.
well, we're gonna hold tight for a little bit then. All right, anything else? I'll move on through here. Okay, I'm gonna go through my select board chair report, summary of the meeting with Chris Campy. Very briefly, we met with Chris, the select board did, and if I was here, we talked with, he explained some of the changes and the fact that he doesn't have all of the answers now, and for us to hold tight, we shared with him a wish list kind of thing. There were some items on that some of his staffing were going to look for to see if there are any grants available. So we're still in a holding pattern with Wyndham Regional and ARPA. Number 2, community planners to help with residential interest in ARPA. Chris did comment that getting the community, get some ideas, maybe work with well, let's see if I have it on here.
With the adjoining towns?
Did I put it on there? Okay, community planners. I'd like to get the planning committee, the planning commissioners involved as well as the select board in trying to come up with an event in the summertime to get the community together, the kids, get them out of the house, get back, we haven't had town meeting. And possibly collect some data from people as far as, what you want and Chris Campy even said, even if you had a map of Brookline and you say, what do you want? You want a playground, you want a swimming pool, you want a dog, whatever, just collect some information, get people involved in it. Do you want to say something?
Stephanie from Susie's was mentioning that she wanted to have some kind of outreach with her kids, with the community, a give back type of thing, so I don't know if you.
Well, that would be something I'm gonna reach out for. I also talked to one of my friends, Sarah Webb, her husband Chris was on the board a while back, and she's interested in becoming more active. In fact, I will make mention that Sarah, S-A-R-A, Webb, W-E-B-B, is running for the at-large write-in position for the school vote on the 23rd. She would be an excellent candidate. I have her blurb. Her blurb is going to be sent out through Julie Lavordna, and also it's on Front Porch Forum. But if you are looking for a possible significant candidate that would help with the education, Sarah Webb would be someone to contact and possibly vote for if you find that interesting. Okay. ACO, a resident called me with a stray dog on the property the other day. As I was going to pick up the dog from her house, I saw a truck leaving and it had the dog in the car. Make a long story short, I went to 6 Papoose Lane, and the current renters there have some unlicensed dogs. They were very polite with me. I explained the policy. I told them I'd call back in about 10 days to 2 weeks to see that they've gotten their paperwork, registration and licenses and rabies done. Then I went to the resident who made the initial complaint, and she was really shook up because the owners found the dog while she was putting a hay bale twine on it to hold it as a leash for me, because she called me and I'm very close on Papoose Lane, and the owner thought she was abusing the dog and verbally accosted her to the point where she called the state police. So we're involved with the police again on another animal control issue. So it's not always fun. Anybody else want to be animal control? You sure? Nobody, no one's looking me in the eye. All right, so we're moving on with that. I sent out the letters and changed that from 18 to 22 dog owners because I found remember a couple of others that needed to be reminded who weren't on this list. All right, and then we have that motion, that's whatever, the executive session will occur after we finish a couple of things here.
I don't know if you wanted to acknowledge for Peter to say that Mr. Bill's arrived at
Oh.
8:14.
Okay, Peter, you can put in the attendance from members of the public. Randy, R-A-N-D-Y, Bills, B-I-L-L-S, arrived at 8:14. He's going to be part of our executive session briefly. Okay. All right,
8:14.
8:14, he arrived, he was sitting quietly here. Okay. All right, town building commissioner report, Bruce?
Okay. First of all, that phone call, nothing to do related to this, but some people might be interested. Dave Zaleska called me up, he's doing really well, he's wanting to do all the work on the school, and that's why it looks so good. That's that.
Dave Zalesko called you and did what?
Just to have a conversation with me to see how I was doing.
Oh,
And
okay,
just
all right.
because he's a good guy and he's a friend, he worked with me for 3 years.
Right, okay,
And I told him how well it all came out, and I invited him to come and take a look at the building on the job that he did, and that was pretty much it.
okay.
Margot G, I finally got an email back from him for 2 months later, and she really didn't respond to anything that I asked her, so forget it. Now, going down the list, a summary of the meeting with Code on 3/7. Unless anybody has any questions about that meeting, the only thing I was getting blurry-eyed, I guess you would call it, after standing for over 2 hours and being up 3:30 that morning. And we're getting to kind of the important part, which I really want to get into, and Stan, I trusted Stan that he picked up the information on the air exchanger on warming, heating the room up above the tolerable room for next year. What Hiram was talking about in terms of insulating that area and sealing it so that we can avoid having the panel open and having it so that it stays warm, so we don't have a repeat, which happened back when Tina had it, and Randy knows it well, we have water going everywhere twice. So we'll go down that road later. Summer in-person meeting with the solar vendor to gather information data for daycare center. Haven't gotten a response back yet. We're considering looking at putting panels on the building, but you know, that's part of the ARPA money and there's a lot involved. There's no reason to go into that blow by blow now, since we haven't had a proposal come back from this Philip, from the company that we met with Friday. Review and discuss concerns about the mold of multipurpose room and on the outside wall. Per my request, Mark was great and diligent, went over there and pulled the plywood up. I looked at it after he did it because I had to go over there to see Mark Onion to meet with him on a visit that to make measurements and discussion whether we can consider doing air heat pumps. So I went down and looked at it. It looked great.
Was the mold?
Small please. Underneath looked fine. Mark said he peeled back the paper a little bit, so I'll let Mark go to that, and then I have a solution going forward.
What'd you see, Mark?
Well, it's very thick wallpaper, it's like nothing I've ever seen before, but anyway, I took a sheetrock knife and cut it off flush with the frame after the flooring was lifted. And when I peeled it up about a foot, it was very clean behind the wallpaper.
Okay.
So I think it's just on the surface from the floor up. Maybe just a tiny bit in the downward direction, but most of it was on the lower section of wall that's exposed.
They used to have a lot of stuff piled there, so now it's all off, so now it's visible, so.
Yeah, I'm thinking it's just, you know, it's a basement and.
I met with Stephanie and Aaron and Colleen, who worked on the walls, and they took a fair amount of mold off the walls. So we didn't see it, obviously. So I think going forward, what we should need to do is we need to work it more with bleach and keep it down and tell them that we should cut that carpet back a little bit. It shouldn't be up against the wall like that. I think we're not gonna have a humidity problem anymore because they have the humidifier down there, which is pretty small. But now that Stephanie's been great about, she's keeping the downstairs, every time we're going in there, it's been comfortable, 65
And the fact that you now have consistent heat too in the three
zones, yeah, the 3 registers.
I definitely noticed a difference in room temperature down there the other day. And I was wondering about that particular paint that you can paint and it stops mildew in its place and keeps it from coming back.
You mean like kills?
Yeah. Kills paint, if you
Yeah.
could maybe match up the color.
That's kills is a stain kill, but you have to paint over that. I have it. I've had both kinds. I've had the old kind, I forget the name of it.
I know there's stuff
This is
that's,
a water base, kills is a water base, the other one was an oil base. But that's a kind of a primer. So to paint that on top of it, you're gonna have to paint, to use that. You'd have to put paint on top of that.
I might be mistaken, but I believe this one brand is.
Kills makes a paint that
It's a one coat.
kills the mold and,
Kills it,
okay,
it keeps it from coming back from that one.
it's worth the cold to Sherwin
I think
Williams.
it's made by Bear, Oh.
Okay.
There's a couple of
them out there.
Yeah, I'm sure there's more than one.
Perkins has something that they sell as well.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah, so maybe that could be
Look that.
an option.
so needless to say, we don't have a critical problem and we can
Great.
keep an eye on it. We'll rectify it.
Great.
I think initially, the cutting back of the carpet a little bit, keeping it away from the wall was a start of a good idea. It looks like they were very diligent, because went in there one day where they were cleaning the carpet, where they were shampooing, I think, I was really paying that much attention, because I was dealing with the heating issue. But I can talk to Stephanie more about it, but tell her what we're gonna do, but we'll keep it. It's not a big deal. The last thing about, I just remember, said that I met with Mark Onion again about the, he says LED light review. Basically, we would be replacing, if we go ahead down the road, we would be replacing not the fixtures. We call it efficiency remodeling, spent a considerable amount of time with them on the phone. Talked to Mark Onion twice about it, and the way to handle it, it appears, is to let more than half the amount of lighting in there and replace it with LED. You don't need to replace the fixtures are fine. What needs to be done is you take the 120-volt wires and basically splice them together. I asked Mark the other day, how much do you think it would take for each fixture? He said about 15-20 minutes per fixture. So depending on how many fixtures we do, how much the cost of the LED bulbs is, which is easier to figure out, because they go down to Granite State Electric off of exit 1, find out what the cost of the kinds and all that. And starting April 1st, Efficiency Vermont is increased their LED rebate to $5 a bulb. So total cost hasn't been determined yet, but this is a work in progress. It's certainly not a tear, but I think in light of what we've seen in the last 4 months about energy consumption, I saw you with the energy bill over there, that and remembering what I know that what Tina spent on it, because we've been doing this a long time, so that hopefully we can start rectifying some of these energy issues, and that's a part of the problem. And I think I am done.
Yeah, there was, I just wanted to say that one night that I spent changing bulbs, I think I replaced 60, and still there was a lag for more. And since then, there's quite a few.
Out. We need to change that scene. There's no reason to have 24 light fixtures times 2 in the gym downstairs. Especially
LED lights are so much better.
Right. And you're initially, just per fixture, you're only gonna use one of the receptacles instead of the 2, because you have LED. So that immediately halves it, and then if you decrease the amount of fixtures, depending on the light necessity and the kind of LED, because they did make some that you need sunglasses, I guess, the way it was explained to me from Mark Onion, and ones that are more soft white, I guess, but I haven't looked into that yet, the cost, et cetera. That's it.
All right, thank you. I'm gonna move on quickly now in old business. We're gonna do our appointments. I have either directly spoken with or emailed with the appointees, and we're good to go for tonight. So I'd like to make a motion that we appoint Archie Clerk for Brookline's Road Commissioner. He will accept it. May I have a second? Seconded by Stan. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of appointing Archie Clerk as our road commissioner signify by saying aye. Aye. Motion passed. I'd like to make a motion that we appoint the Wyndham County Humane Society as our pound keeper for the town. I'd like to have a second.
Second.
Seconded by Gwen. Any discussion? I'll make a note. It will become a contractual agreement as our pound keeper, but that will come after the fact. So, any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of appointing the Wyndham County Humane Society as the Brookline Town Keeper signify by saying aye. Aye, all the motion passed. I'd like to make a motion to appoint Daniel Towler as the Wyndham Solid Waste Management District Representative for Brookline. May I have a second? Seconded by Stan. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of appointing Daniel Towler to the Wyndham Solid Waste Management District for Brookline signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. I'd like to make a motion to appoint Jordan Dana as our Rescue Inc. representative. May I have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Gwen. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of appointing Jordan Dana as our Rescue Inc. representative signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? The motion passes. I'd like to make a motion that the planning committee stays as stated, Daniel Kilgart, Charles Ezekiel, and Barbara Bourne. There are still 2 vacancies existing on our planning commission, but may I have a second for appointing the 3 that I mentioned, Daniel, Charlie, and Barbara?
Second.
Seconded by Stan. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of appointing the planning committee as stated signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. I'd like to make a motion that we appoint Donald Demain as our DV fiber representative for Brookline. May I have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Stan. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of reappointing Donald Demain as our DV fiber representative signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. I've written to Helen Holt and Mike Bills. I did not get a response from them, but their appointment currently continues until June 30th this year. I would like to I'd like to make a motion that we appoint Helen Holt and Mike Bills as listers. May I have a second?
A second.
Seconded by Gwen. Any discussion? If they decide not to continue, I will let the board know, but I was pretty confident that they would. That were the only ones I didn't hear back.
I spoke with Helen and she said she would stay and she thought that Mike would also.
Okay, well, I did write to those to them, so hopefully that'd be good. All right, so all those in favor of approving the listers Helen Holt and Mike Bills, signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. Forest Fire Warden, Lester Rink's appointment does not expire, so we don't have to reappoint it. It expires on 2025.
Okay, did you speak to because that's a state, that's a
I don't
state.
have to, he's got a 2025 appointment date. It doesn't expire. He doesn't.
When did he get last appointed for? I thought it was a 3-year. Okay, whatever you say.
In this book, it says it doesn't expire until 2025. Same thing with Michael, why not?
Okay.
But I am gonna still say.
Yeah.
We'll make a motion that we appoint, we maintain the appointment of Lester Rink as Forest Fire Warden. May I have a second? Seconded by Bruce. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of maintaining the appointment of Forest Fire Warden with Lester Rink signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. Sevka, I had nobody for Sevka. So I'm gonna leave that. We're gonna leave the Sevka, we're gonna table Sevka unless I can hear somebody steps forward. I know it says in the book that the town health officer is the select board chair. I figured I'd like to make a motion to appoint Dorothy Maggio as the town health officer. May I have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Gwen. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of Dorothy Maggio being the town health officer signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? And all those in favor, I'd like to make a motion to continue with the appointment of the Deputy Forest Fire Warden, Michael W. Wynot, whose current term expires 2025, but I'd like to make sure we continue the reappointment of him. May I have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Stan. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the continuing appointment of Deputy Forest Fire Warden Michael W. Wynot signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion passes. All right, very quickly through communications, the regular mail, Wyndham Regional sent us the hazard mitigation plan for Putney, which we've already reviewed, and the other mail were our bids. I didn't even check the mailbox, to tell you the truth.
I brought it in.
All right, so
That's it.
we're good. All right, email. I did get a request to find the resting place of Asa and Mary Fuller, which are Revolutionary War veterans, so I am if they're, I think they might be in Cynthia's burial ground, in her private burial ground. I know she has some Revolutionary War, but I told the owner, I told the family that they're not in Riverside, they're in an ancient cemetery, and I'm not walking around looking at this time of the year.
Is that the same one that we got on,
Yes.
that was passed on from Dutton?
From Dutton, Joseph Dutton, yes.
Yes,
that's
okay.
right.
Yeah, and I looked in the records and I can't find
Yeah,
anything
so-
so far.
Yeah, I think when Cynthia's feeling a little better, I'll talk to her about what she knows. We also got email on planning highway grants for 2022, which we're gonna work with them and get some committee time together. And I also made mention that Sarah would like to be a write-in for our representative for Union Gray in the March 23rd Australian ballot. Pay orders, let's go with that very quickly. Okay, payroll warrant. I'd like to make a motion to accept payroll warrant 2022-35 in the amount of $2,280.43. May I have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Stan. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of approving payroll warrant 2022-35 in the amount of $2,280.43 signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, I'm gonna send this around for you all to sign. I'd like to make a motion that we approve accounts payable number 22-37 dated March 16th in the amount of $262,215.30. May I have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Stan. Any discussion? I have two items. One, I'll make mention that the reason why we have such a large expense is that we are paying for the education taxes. And number two, I had one question, I think I know the answer for it. It was a bill for co-file preservation ink for LR binder for $502. Are those big things that you
Yes, they are.
use? Those
Two reams of paper,
$500 a book.
$500 for 2 reams of paper, shipping, and the book.
Yeah, all right, so that's what I thought it was.
Yep.
Cool.
I need
All right.
a job.
So all of those in favor of approving the accounts payable warrant 2022-37 in the amount of $262,215.30 signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, any opposed? Not, the motion passes, I shall pass this around to you.
Just a quick question in regards to the code 3 billing. It was my understanding that when we coded the code 3 invoices, that the town paid for the fire extinguishers and the inspections of all the buildings in the town. And I think there was one that was coded to Susie's Little Peanuts for $25. And I just want to get some sort of clarification going forward.
I think that's our responsibility.
Yeah, because, well, the town owns the building, the town is responsible for the insurance, and
We did that.
so I just wanna make sure
Yeah,
that
it doesn't
going
come out.
forward, because I may change that in the,
In
you know, in
billing
the-
cycle.
Yeah, I think it's a deduct in the budget, yeah.
All right, yes, thank you, Guy, for
okay,
recognizing that. All right, perfect. Pay orders we've done, set agenda for the regular meeting on April 6th. Annual review update, the sole source vendor list. We did get a request from our assistant treasurer to take a look at that list, and I'll have that information out to you earlier. I do want to consider us discussing coordinating efforts with the Brookline Meeting House Committee at the next meeting for a summertime open house town event, which might have food and activities. It could be working with the ARPA collection of data. It's something that we might be able to work together with a group of other people, so it's just not the same 3 or 4 people all the time. So that will be on the agenda. I'm also gonna have on the agenda the bids for the painting, which is tabled today. We'll have an update from Stan regarding projects. And the school will already had, and any other items that you may want to discuss.
The Front Porch Forum and Newfane indicated they were willing to share a meeting house space. Is that anything that our meeting house is interested in, or any members of the select board?
I sent out a copy of I read the select board minutes, and they're looking at buying either the South Newfane Old General Store or buying another, they're not looking at helping out in Newfane, Brookline. It's not like they're looking at, I don't know what their ARPA money was in for, but they're looking at getting us to help them
Do a bigger
do a
building.
bigger project versus,
Reverse.
yeah, they're looking at purchasing
Okay,
things.
So you would feel that even asking them.
I'm going to the Zoom meeting on Monday night, and I'm going to listen, and I may have something to say, I'll let you know.
I just looked like they were willing to do something with others. And to me, that left open the possibility that maybe they hadn't even thought of being interested.
Here it is, they have Newfane, they have Southport Newfane, they have Williamsville, they talk about those as other communities.
You know, each one has its
Their own
own
post
character.
office, yeah, so I'm not sure if they really meant other towns to be involved in the Newfane project, but I will find that out.
One of the reasons I thought of that is because you look at the land that goes with those properties, like the general store that was a general
No
store.
parking,
There's no parking, it has no lane.
same thing with the
It's right
new
on the
fade in.
river.
Right.
And the same goes with Williamsville, you know, both those buildings that they might be converting don't have any land, and it's like that down to the river. So I'm thinking, you know, we've got property that we've been looking to do something with, not that we want, you know, we have to look at traffic inflow and somewhat loss of control. In essence, it's now a bigger group. But on the other hand, we're looking at, you know, tight budgets with just painting and.
Yeah, exactly. The ramifications of owning that
Meeting on
is,
committee tomorrow night and tell them that I'm gonna go, maybe somebody else might want to, we don't know.
But thank you for
Very
doing
easy
that.
peasy
You know, that's
right now
great.
with that. Okay, at this time, let me get my proper words here. A motion that is being made at this time to enter into executive session to discuss two items. One is a private resident concern dealing with a minor, and the other is the amending of the town's lease contract with Suzie Carter-Marsh at Suzie's Little Peanuts in Brookline under the provisions of Title I, Section 212A, 1A of the Vermont statutes. No decisions or votes will be taken during the meeting, and once we resume the public session, I'm gonna ask Gwen, because I always forget to write to Peter. I'm gonna ask Gwen to finish up the brief minutes when we close the executive session, what time the meeting closed, and whatever motions were made outside of executive session, so I need your help on that. Okay, so at this time, we're gonna take a short, I'm gonna give you a short recess, and then we'll begin the executive session. At this time, it is now 8:49, we're gonna take a 2-minute recess, and then we'll begin executive session. Thank you very much.
okay,
Recording stopped.